Kevin McHale is a legendary player on the Boston Celtics, but outside of basketball fans, I think most people wouldn't recognize his name, but they might have seen him the two times that he stepped off the parquet floor at the Boston Gardens and onto the set of America's most watched sitcom, Cheers. But the interesting thing is the only reason Kevin McHale got that call was because Larry Bird had already bailed on the Cheers cast twice. And because Larry Bird kept saying no, the producers called an audible, reached out to Kevin McHale, which led to him being such a good performer that they wrote him a second episode. Kevin McHale had like a mini acting career, and this led to two of the greatest episodes in the history of the series, and I would have to say the two most Boston-centered episodes of the series. Today, we're going to break down the episodes that Larry Bird rejected. One of them you'll be shocked by. How Kevin McHale became a surprisingly good sitcom actor. What the original plans for the episodes were. And the hilarious real history behind the Celtics' legendary parquet floor.
If he wants to play that way, I'm just going to get Kevin McHale to come down and play with us. If you want to do it, then I'll get Larry Bird.
Right. No, not Bird. If he's in, I'm out.
You tell me you know Larry Bird?
Yeah, I don't have to know him. He's from French Lick, Indiana. He's a doofus.
Who is Kevin McHale? Before McHale was cracking jokes at the Cheers bar, he was building one of the most impressive resumes in Celtics history. He was drafted third overall in 1980, and he was part of the Big Three, along with Larry Bird and Robert Parrish. This trio dominated the decade, and McHale helped deliver 3 championships to the Boston Celtics. 1981, 1984, and 1986. I know him best from his time on Cheers, but I looked at all the lists on different sports blogs. He is considered to be one of the greatest low post scorers of his era, and his up and under move is still taught at clinics today. He made 7 All-Star teams, 6 All-Defensive teams. He won 2 Six-Man of the Year awards, and he scored 56 points in a single game, which was the Boston Celtics record at the time. He had a quiet, almost introverted presence off the court, but he loved goofy humor, he loved practical jokes, and that's exactly what made him a perfect TV guest star. So how did this whole thing start? In 1989, the Cheers writing staff was writing a season 7 episode. It ended up being episode 17. It was called Hot Rocks, and it's an episode about high society. Rebecca Howe, played by Kirstie Alley, borrows a pair of expensive diamond earrings so she can go to a gala that is on board the USS Constitution. And then the earrings go missing. The original script called for a big cameo from Larry Bird, and then when Rebecca notices the earrings are gone, she has no one to suspect but Larry Bird. Could Larry Bird really be the jewel thief that stole Rebecca Howe's earrings? It would have been one of Larry Bird's rare acting appearances. Boston fans would have absolutely loved it, but Larry Bird said no. He didn't like acting. He didn't like Hollywood. He didn't want to spend all day on the set, and so he said no, which led the writers and the producers to scramble at the last minute to try to find a suitable guest star, and they found it in Admiral William J. Crowe, who at the time was the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staffs. For real. This is still one of the weirdest plan Bs in the history of sitcom casting. They're trying to get a sports star, and instead they end up getting a man who's in charge of our nuclear arsenal. Now, Crowe wasn't just a random stunt casting. He was a huge fan of Cheers, and since they knew that it might be possible to get him on the show, which they did. Now, if you don't remember the episode or you have a faint memory of it, Sam and Rebecca both get stood up at the gala, and then Rebecca notices that the fancy earrings that she's borrowed and she can't afford have gone missing. And then Norm and Cliff, 2 men who should never investigate anything, investigate the disappearing and end up accusing the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of stealing Rebecca's earrings. The earrings turn up in a water glass because of course they do. And the episode went on to be one of the most watched episodes of the entire season. But the writers didn't want to give up on the dream of having Larry Bird on the show. You have to understand in context, he was the biggest sports star in Boston, and this was a show about sports stars in Boston. They wrote a new script for an episode with a whole basketball plot that centered around the Gary's Old Town Tavern playing a game against the Cheers guys. So they begged Larry Bird, and again he told them no. So they pivoted and they asked Kevin McHale. Now, unlike Larry Bird, Kevin McHale actually liked performing. He had done some local commercials and he really liked being in front of the camera.
Mr. Director, we need a new script because we're getting awfully tired of doing that.
The episode is titled Cheers Fouls Out. It is the second episode of the 9th season, aired in 1990. Sam doesn't want to lose to Gary's Old Town Tavern. If you've seen the episodes, they did these series of episodes. They were usually called Bar Wars with a number and then a subtitle. And Gary and his crew would always beat Cheers at whatever the game was. Usually it was practical jokes. In this case, they are going to have a basketball game. Now, Sam tells Kevin McHale that he's coming in for a charity game. But there's no charity. It's just a rivalry between Cheers and Gary's Old Town Tavern. McHale gets injured during the game in the show, which must have made Celtics fans swallow hard, because this was during an era where their players were held together by glass and hope. This episode aired when Cheers was the #1 show on television, pulling in about 30 million viewers per episode. And this was coming at the end of the Celtics dynasty. Kevin McHale was having a lot of foot trouble. Larry Bird was having back issues. But they had a hit with this episode. The episode was so popular that they reran it twice during that season. This is something that almost never happened with Cheers. And the reason? Kevin McHale crushed it. Even people like me that weren't Boston Celtics fans, didn't know Kevin McHale from The Next Giant Tall Guy, loved him. He was charming on screen. He was funny. He was perfect. So the writers decided they didn't need Larry Bird. They wanted Kevin McHale back, and they brought him back for a wonderful episode that included the Boston Garden. This one aired November 7th, 1991, Season 10, Episode 8, Where Have All the Floorboards Gone? This is one of the most legendary episodes among Cheers fans and Boston Celtics fans. Kevin McHale stops by the Cheers bar to give Norm a Celtics jacket, and the bar chatter ends up leading to an in-depth discussion about how many bolts are in the parquet floor at the Boston Garden. Cliff naturally claims to know the answer, and naturally Cliff is wrong. McHale becomes obsessed with the answer. He's messing up during the games because he's looking at the floor trying to count the bolts. Eventually, the Cheers gang breaks into the Boston Garden at night to count the actual bolts in the parquet floor. Now, here's the great thing. The writers used the real number. It truly was 988 bolts holding down 247 parquet panels that made up the Boston Celtics hardwood floor. The actual floor at the Boston Garden had been made with surplus lumber that was intended for World War II, and it gave strange bounces to the ball, which the Celtics players claimed to love and the opponents absolutely hated. Legendary head coach and executive of the Boston Celtics, Red Auerbach, who was responsible for most of the best players being on that team, refused to replace that floor, and so they kept it until the building was demolished. So that parquet floor dated back to 1946. The players said they could feel the dead spots as they stood on it. It was assembled like a giant jigsaw puzzle back in 46. And when they moved to their new arena in 1995, they cut up the old floor and they sold it off as souvenirs. Well, anyway, once Kevin McHale learns that there are 988 bolts in the 247 pieces of the hardwood floor, he is comfortable. The writer said that they were so happy with his performance that they expanded his role As they were filming the episode, they wrote in a new scene featuring his wife. And that was his actual real wife, Lynn McHale. Cheers writer Ken Levine, who also wrote for MASH and The Simpsons, has written on his blog that Kevin McHale was the best sports actor he had ever worked with. Levine said Kevin McHale was so good, so natural, shockingly funny, he came in, hit every line, and asked for more, so we gave him more. Most times you see an athlete show up in a sitcom, they're stiff, they come off weird and robotic. Not Kevin McHale. He's the type you see him and you say, I hope he comes back next season. Now, Larry Bird's reluctance to work on Cheers wasn't personal. He said he liked the show, he just didn't like acting. Now, he did do a couple acting performances during his career. You may remember him showing up in Space Jam. He also appeared in the 1994 basketball drama Blue Chips, and he appeared in a very funny McDonald's commercial.
Every player has a weakness. Tonight, Mr. Grant Hill's weakness takes center court.
After his time on the Celtics and his time on Cheers, Kevin McHale stayed close to basketball. He became the GM of the Minnesota Timberwolves, and he drafted Kevin Garnett. He served as head coach for the Houston Rockets, leading them to multiple playoff runs. He also became a popular analyst on TNT, known for his humor, his storytelling, and his ability to roast Charles Barkley. And for Celtics fans, well, those two episodes are a wonderful reminder of that moment in history, and also a reminder that Kevin McHale could have had a run as a comedic actor if he wanted one.
It says adult male gorilla. That's not me. Could be Lambeer, huh?
Well, that's going to do it for this one. Until next time, cheers.